first half of this year for the Torchwood monthly range from Big Finish Productions has been dominated by a trilogy of stories written by and starring Gareth David Lloyd, who played Yanto in the original TV series. We have a trilogy of stories here. We've got Tube Strike, we've got Missing Molly, and now we have Disco. Missing Molly was a really strong drama last month, and I heard great pre-release buzz about Disco, so let's see if this concluding chapter of this trilogy has made this worth the entire creative endeavour. So Disco opens with Yanto going to a pub in his homestead in Wales to be at the wake of his late father, whom he did not know the name of. He is known, Yanto is known as the one that got away in terms of the family, and he gets chatting with some of his old friends. He gets chatting with his dad's friend who was a former barmaid, and also a friend who once got into a massive fight with him before they made amends. But apparently that fight that week in 1987 was sort of the beginning of the end for Yanto's dad. He put a bet on a horse and it didn't pan out right. He was told it was a sure thing, but then he lost all of his money. He had a bad relationship with his wife and his kids, and everything basically went wrong in that week in 1987. And then we flash back now to 1987, where we meet Yanto's dad, nicknamed Disco, played by Rhys ap Treffo, and he makes a new friend, played by Gareth David Lloyd, called Tom, who is very eager to get to know Disco, who wants to learn about his life and try and make sure that he makes the right choices, that he doesn't bet on that horse, that he doesn't abandon his family, that he's a good person, a good man who makes the right decisions. Let's play a clip from Disco.
I better get back home soon, or she'll have my guests for garters.
She can't be that bad. Damn, what's the time? I've got to go too.
Oh, I said soon, not now. You can have another couple of pints or three.
No, I've got to go now. I've got to catch a bus back to Cardiff Bay.
What? Tiger Bay? Jesus, rough as shit down there. No wonder you want to move here.
Anyway, it was good to meet you. I think. I don't even know what I'm doing. I'll see you again at some point.
Listen, Tom, if you're strapped for cash, you could help me out with this little job I got on.
The fence, I heard. I don't think Desi's going to pay two of us.
I'll split mine with you. I guess my dole on Thursday, and between you and me, I got this smoking hot tip on an arse tomorrow. It's a sure thing. I'm telling you, mate, I'm going to be rolling in it. And the job will be done in half the time. Meet you at 10 o'clock out the front. It's only up the road, 10 White Crescent.
Yeah. All right. You're on. Bugger, I've really got to go.
What you like with fences, anyway? You put one up before, haven't you? It's easy, anyway. Ta-da!
So as you can probably tell from that clip, Tom is not Tom, it is Yanto, who has used Torchwood technology to go back in time to 1987 to try and make sure that his father, nicknamed Disco, makes all of the right choices. And it's such a great dramatic conceit that Yanto didn't know much about his dad, and you know Yanto left at an early age so that he could be away from an abusive family, so he goes back to 1987 to try and save the soul of Disco Jones, being the nickname for his father. So the pub that he frequents is the Merry Miller, and every other day of the week Disco is there drinking, and on Saturday nights he tears up the dance floor. He's the last one to leave, and he's drinking to forget his family and all this stuff, but he's still trying to have a good life. He's still trying to do well on the dole and such, but it's a really interesting dramatic conceit, and I think that Gareth David Lloyd plays it so sensitively well. I think that it's a really, really great performance from him, and also just a really nuanced and textured script. Even though this is a very small cast of characters, like you've got Disco, you've got Yanto, but you've also got his friend Ginge, you've also got the barmaid Desi, played by Gareth John Bale and Sarah McGoughy respectively. It's a small cast, but you still get a lot of utility out of them. It's a really, really great, effective, economic story in terms of just its size and its scale, because so much of the drama comes from the relationship relationship between Yanto and the father who he never knew, and the idea that he's trying to be like a guardian angel. He's trying to be, I think he's nicknamed a wizard at one point, and Yanto's like, I hate that nickname. But what happens is that Yanto is only allowed to go back for a few hours at a time, and then he goes back to the future and he needs to recharge the device, and then he goes back again. We see this all from Disco's perspective. We never get any scenes outside of the opening wake at the beginning of the story. We don't get any scenes of Yanto sort of returning to the future, figuring out what's happened, what changes there have been, or talking to the Torchwood team or whatever. It's all from Disco's perspective, which is such a great way to frame the story. But what's really interesting is that Yanto, through the like subtle textual clues over the course of the story, we learn that Yanto's future, as he's trying to make Disco's life better, is way worse than the future that he leaves behind. As in, whenever he makes Disco's life better, whenever he convinces him to make a better decision, don't bet on that horse and lose all of that money, don't cheat on your wife with the barmaid and such, it turns out that in the future, Yanto's life is worse. He's losing family members, he's losing job prospects, he's losing like all the parts of his life that he takes comfort and joy in. So it's this weird like balancing act of Yanto trying to balance making his life tenable in the future, but also trying to learn more about his father in the past and improve his life and how far he's willing to go, whether or not he will selfishly make a decision to ruin his father's life in order to save his own future. It's such a great conceit for a story. This is like the great adult moral dilemma sci-fi that I want Big Finish to be doing with Torchwood. And they did it last month with Missing Molly as well, but they've also done it here with Disco. There's a really wonderful like coda to the story where we learn like way more about Yanto's father and his relationship with the family and such. It's been great that Gareth David Lloyd has such like authorial like control over the character that he's been playing for nearly 20 years. Like the character of Yanto was introduced in like 2006, 2007 in the Torchwood series, and now nearly 20 years later he's writing stories that really dive deeper into that character because there's still more to learn about him. It's really, really well done. Some really wonderful scenes. There's a particularly affecting one when Yanto takes his dad up to like a nearby Welsh castle. They're both absolutely drunk out of their mind, and he kind of confesses, and the way it's played, like the lump in like Gareth David Lloyd's throat, like as he's like reading out this monologue, it's so wonderfully done. I loved it a lot. I thought that Missing Molly was like going to be the peak of this range in terms of like this trilogy, but Disco is definitely giving it a run for its money. I definitely think it's worth repeat listenings. I think that it's a story with a lot on its mind and a lot to give. I'm curious how much of this might be autobiographical. My main complaint about the set is that the behind the scenes extras afterwards, it's really interesting, but they spend most of that duration of the behind the scenes extras talking about the accents and like how this is a corner of Wales that doesn't get depicted much in media, so it was difficult to emulate the accents for it, which is definitely interesting. And if you're into voice acting or acting in generally, that might be really worth listening to. But I wanted to listen to more about Gareth David Lloyd's thought process for writing the story. I think that Lisa Bowerman's done a great job at directing this cast of actors over the past few months as well for this trilogy. Yeah, this is really strong, really, really strong. Maybe Missing Molly's the best because I think it took me on the bigger journey. There's a proper mystery to Missing Molly as well as just the nature of the girl who's gone missing in that story. I reviewed it last month if you want to check out my review for that. But Disco is also a real like emotional roller coaster, which puts Yanto in a really difficult dilemma, and you can't help but thinking as you're listening to it, like, what would you do in the same situation? Would you like sabotage a loved one's life just to improve your own if you had the time travel capabilities to do so? It just kind of shows that Torchwood really excels when it's depicting morally dubious main characters, people who, with their exposure to this technology and also their own interpersonal relationships, are really messed up and they don't make the right decisions. And and Torchwood is just such a bad outlet for people like them as well. Yeah, it's really excelling here. It's great stuff. I really, really liked Disco. I liked it an awful lot, and I do highly recommend it.